Leon Kennedy, once a man who nearly became a cop, sought out a life away from Raccoon City after he threw his smoothie out of the window of his car, accidentally hitting a man working on an electrical junction box, causing a chain reaction of explosions which turned the once bustling hub into a desolate wasteland. After leaving Raccoon City, he would travel the globe and eventually found himself in Gotham City, a city so bad it made what remains of Raccoon City look like the Garden of Eden. However, like something out of a late 90s video game, a zombie outbreak would hit Gotham City, but unlike Raccoon City, this was an improvement and Leon stuck around. Earning a spot in the GCPD's fastest undead culling crew, or the FUCC for short, Leon would slowly become inspired by the Batman, a mythical figure who struck fear into the heart of the zombies roaming the streets of Gotham, and Leon would begin to idolise the Batman, dedicating his time to learning all he could about him. Leon was impressed by the fact he never killed a single zombie, instead incapacitating them beyond repair. He was also impressed by his clearly vast amounts of wealth, and the fact he didn't use guns, but all this aside, disaster would strike. While roaming the city one night, Leon was called back to the precinct and was told to hand in his badge and gun, because of multiple reports of quote-unquote unnecessary jumping rotations in a counterclockwise manoeuvre, and just like that, he was fired. Now lost with no direction in his life, no job, and with his last girlfriend falling down a hole, he'd travel off to the deepest, darkest depths of Spain to find himself again, and most importantly, find true love in the form of Ashley, the daughter of the sister of the brother of the uncle of the dad of the cousin twice removed of the President of the United States. The pair met over a shady dating app, and Leon, knowing she was holidaying in Spain, decided to fly out to see if he could finally meet her in person. But when he arrived, he was greeted by two men. Not a great start, but they promised to take him to his date with Ashley. However, their vehicle would break down, leading to Leon deciding to venture off into the woods alone, certain he'd find Ashley somewhere out there. He'd eventually stumble across an old house, invite himself in, and begin to get to know the owner quite intimately, as the homeowner invoked his right to kill intruders and would try to end Leon's life. But thankfully, using the skills the FUCC taught him, he managed to escape the clutches of death, and it's here he remembered something. Nay, someone. Leon knew that these people were simply unfortunate. Being alone in the woods without Instagram reels to take their mind off the numbing pain of being in the outside world, now that's a fate worse than death. So in that moment he knew he had to channel his idol's code. He needed to become something darker, something more than he was. He vowed he wouldn't kill these poor civilians unless left with no choice. Or they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or they just kind of looked at him a bit funny. Look, Leon hadn't really grasped the whole no-kill rule, but he did decide he would never use a weapon that wasn't bladed. He vowed to be frugal, to amass wealth to eventually rival that of the man he looked up to.
Say wallahi, bro! Say wallahi!
And only used money to buy himself armour to increase his chances of survival. After all, he was facing real-less foes, the pinnacle of human insanity. And finally, as we alluded to earlier, he vowed to never use a gun. Unless needed to complete a puzzle, he was dense after all and wouldn't be smart enough to figure out an alternative solution. Guns were loud and clumsy, the weapon of cowards, and Leon knew he was a lot of things, but a coward wasn't one of them. He wasn't smart enough to feel fear. He knew he had to confront his issues head-on, knife in hand, but something was missing. That would have to wait though. If Leon was to give these poor Spaniards a hope at a new life and do the same for himself, he'd have to destroy the man who took away the internet connection from this place and finally meet his date. He'd eventually stumble across some sort of evil village for residents of the country and spot his taxi driver, the man he formed such a wonderful connection with on his journey here.
I'm sure you boys didn't come all the way out here to roast marshmallows.
Fuck you!
He was being burned alive and turned into some sort of public ritual, and Leon knew he had to say hi and try to talk the residents out of their afternoon barbecue. However, they don't take kindly to this, so Leon must enact his survival plan, using his limited knives to fight off the resident evil in the village long enough for them to be distracted by the village's weekly bingo tournament, which they're eventually alerted to, giving Leon a short break from the action. Moving into the next part of the village, and after doing some fairly easy revamping of the village's gating system, a showing of clear goodwill by Leon, they decided to begin attacking him, believing him to be some sort of ironic spin on Mr. Beast, balancing out his kindness with senseless cruelty. Anyway, something in a nearby basement calls to him, and Leon drops in to see what could possibly be down there. In a bag he finds Luis, a man who... wait, what the fuck? Waking up in some kind of makeshift saw trap, Leon noticed something. The final missing piece of the puzzle, his batsuit. Leon knew for a fact he had packed it, and his new friend Luis was kind enough to help him get dressed, knowing he was the last hope these poor internetless people had. The suit was state of the art. It had heat-resistant fibres, a cape with jiggle physics, and most importantly, a very, very prominent crotch guard. You have got to protect that Leon Kennedick somehow, I suppose. It's here we meet Mer-chan, and he is special. He has internet banking, and using his local hotspot, Leon is able to access his severance pay from his former place of employment back in Gotham, and above all else, thanks to Mer-chan's excellent long-term memory, he's able to access his secret weapon. See, I didn't tell you this in the intro, but Leon has done this before. Back in 2005, he was fired from his janitor position at the Umbrella Corporation and came to this very same region of Spain. After he was done here, he left his adamantium knife with Mer-chan as a gift, but with times being desperate, Leon asks Mer if he can have his infinity knife back, and after being extorted out of some serious dollar by Mer, Leon obtains his infinity knife and continues on his journey, knife in hand and batsuit replica on. Leon needs to find a glorified door handle, and well... After kindly asking the residents to unlock the door for him and coming across another cabin in the woods, Leon remembers he needs the toilet. He finds the toilet and makes this man a statistic of knife crime while he takes a crap. Wow, that's really grim, Leon. You need help. Leon heads upstairs and is jumped by Mr. Y, only being saved by a mysterious catsuit-wearing femme fatale, and it's here Leon finds a knife in his chest as he realises he too is going insane in the wilderness. After leaving the cabin to further hunt down his date, Leon comes across a wolf stuck in a bear trap, so he saves it, and rather ungratefully, it runs away from Leon, probably scared of the suit he's got on. I mean, seriously, look at that crotch guard. Why is it so prominent?
Fetch me their swords!
After trading damage with some sort of evil death hound, we find a pair of guys dropping a third guy into the water after he lost last season's fantasy football league. Oh my god. Well, I guess he won't be losing next season. Stabbing this cowman to death, Leon kills a few more unfortunates and grabs some fuel for his new boat. Back at the boat, he throws some eggs at some fish and kills them? I mean, yeah, sure thing, why not? Unhatched chickens aren't the only deadly beings residing in this lagoon though, as we are soon to find out as Leon is jumped by Del Lago, real name From the Lake. FTL, as we'll refer to the big guy as, begins ragging us around the lake, but thankfully Leon stocks up on harpoons and turns FTL into a pincushion, mirroring the pain Leon himself is going through. He takes the beast down and decides to hit the hay, taking a short nap on the quiet lake.
So cute!
After waking up from his nap and taking a trip into the local caves, Leon begins heading back to the town of people he outlasted, but is stopped in his tracks by El Gigante, or should I say El Gigante, because he's about to get sliced up. This was Leon's first real fight, so he had to lock in, and after stabbing the big boy in the back of the car for 5 minutes with very little resistance by the keeper of the gate, he was worn down and eventually left himself open for a flashbang. See, Leon forgot he could craft flashbangs for about 2 hours, so from here on out they'd be a valuable tool in his arsenal. Anyway, after slicing the ankles of the giant for long enough, the wolf Leon saved earlier swoops in with as much aura as Leon himself, and with his help, Leon is able to take down the giant for good and say thanks to his new fluffy companion.
Thanks, bud.
Heading back to the church he ran past earlier, he hears screams coming from the inside and finds nothing other than his date, Ashley. Ashley initially tries to beat Leon to death because she thinks he stood her up, but they're quickly interrupted and have to escape the church, the realless Spaniards converging on their position, weapons in hand. Leon and Ashley manage to escape, barely, and end up at the house of the man Leon rescued earlier, Luis. After complimenting Ashley's ballistics, Luis tells Leon the only reason he stuck around after they escaped was to get his bag back. Yes, the bag we met him in. That was his sole mission, get the bag. How relatable. How relatable. Oh god, I'm keeping that in. Anyway, we hide Ashley away and prepare to bat the invading enemies away. So breaking character here, I thought this was going to be a lot harder than it was. We only died once, which I thought was a pretty good thing. See, I assumed when the big cowman came crashing through with his hammer of justice, we'd be squashed and, well, we were. But what I didn't know was that we didn't even need to kill him to progress, and Ashley would save Leon and Luis from the cabin after a set amount of time. This would not be the last time I could have made my life easier by simply using a bit of common sense, but anyway, back to the story and back to my narrator voice. After escaping the cabin, Luis, Leon and Ashley escape the hut running to safety. It's here we find out two important plot points. The first thing being that Ashley is infected with something called Las Plagas, the same thing that the residents are infected with. This poses more questions than answers. Are these people even realless? Will Ashley become like them? What exactly is Leon's arm workout? A lot of questions and no answers. We also find out that Luis is working with us now. He's become a part of the team and he runs across none other than Ada Wong. In the intro I said Leon's ex fell down a giant hole. Well, I lied. I mean, well, she did, so I didn't lie, but also she lived and she's back. And she kind of matches Leon's energy, dressing in a familiar getup, clearly inspired by the 2015 video game Batman Arkham Knight. Anyway, with Leon protecting his date from the infected, Luis on the hunt for the bag, and Ada somewhere in the mix, Ashley takes the cake for the strangest predicament as she begins showing the first signs of her infection as she grows cat ears. Clearly her fate, if we don't find the cure for her, is that of a feline life. The pair move out, Leon tries his best stealth impression, and eventually they reach an impassable gate which requires a crank handle to get past. Leon tells his cat girlfriend to hide in a locker and whoa, that was a cool backflip. Yeah, so the Chainsaw Sisters. The first go around didn't go particularly well, with Leon being skewered like a bit of chicken. But the second go around, easy win. We parried them into oblivion and eventually found the crank. After Leon straight cranks it crazy style, the bat and future cat are chased by Mr. Y.
Look at this. I just have this little guy that sits in my living room and stares at me.
And Ashley decides to become a liability for the first and not final time in this story. This was but a prelude to the pain and misery this cat-eared clown would cause us further down the line. They escape the big Y, and oh no, there he is again. Now, I thought this boss fight would be really hard, almost impossible. I mean, Mr. Y spends the second half of it really far away from you, and Leon has no way to get over to him. But nope, this was genuinely kind of easy. There were a few times where I nearly cried out in real life pain, fearing for the worst, but for the most part we dispatched of Mr. X's estranged brother pretty easily, using what I like to call the ladder to heaven strategy. A strategy where, when this roided up scorpion decides to throw explosive barrels at you, you run over to your nearest ladder and begin climbing, rendering you to explosive damage. Anyway, after killing this fool off and robbing his glass eye, we proceed onwards. Our next section sees us open with a riddle. What's short, collects valuable treasures, is really annoying, has a funny voice and can be killed pretty easily if you fire a rocket at them. If you said Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, you are correct. But if you said Ramon Salazar, you are also correct. See, Castle Salazar is probably the most punishing segment of this little challenge because of 4 main encounters, 2 of which nearly sent me into a rage-induced coma. The first segment sees Leon and Catchley make their way through what I can only describe as the 7th circle of hell, or as I've come to affectionately call it, the catapult. This section sees Leon have to tow Ashley behind him, weaving through enemies, catapult fire, and a whole lot of bad RNG. See, as we'll come to find out, a lot of the sections in this game are much easier without Ashley, but given she is here and does play a big part in our journey, we had to live with that as we took a whole lot of game overs.
Ashley!
And after about 45 minutes of constant pain and suffering, we finally managed to take down the catapult, keep Ashley safe through the power of a massive metal ball, and finally progress through the gates of Castle Salazar. Leon and Ashley would eventually then meet Oswald Chesterfield Salazar and fight his guards off before Leon would venture down into the depths of Castle Cobblepot and find a new friend, Gary Dorr. Now, Gary Dorr is blind, an unfortunate fate for sure, but he wasn't deaf. Quite the contrary, he actually had super hearing. Unfortunately for him though, Leon had mastered stealth, and through some patience and a whole lot of stabbing, he managed to kill Gary Dorr and for the most part avoided his spiky arms with relative ease. One of Cobblezar's main weapons had fallen at the hands, or should I say knife, of Leon Sex Kennedy, but this was far from the end, as Leon and Ashley would soon have to work in tandem to secure their route through the castle. Their next challenge would see Leon and Ashley work together to lift a few platforms for the bridge. Leon would lift the first one, leading the second and third to Ashley. But here's the catch. Leon would have to protect his cat girlfriend, but he had no ranged weapons. So over an hour of painstakingly watching Ashley be kidnapped, blown up, killed by us, and otherwise fail at being anything other than a hindrance, I was broken. With only a handful of items at my disposal, I resorted to my last resort: grenades and flashbangs. Look, I know this is a Batman-based challenge, but I never said which Batman, so for this segment, think of us as Ben Affleck's Batman. I also adopted the bolt thrower. See, Batman has no issues with crossbows and bows in general. Look at Helena Wayne or even the Green Arrow. Both use a form of bow and arrow, so for these desperate times, desperate measures had to be resorted to. Don't get it twisted though, this was still a slog. We needed to have pinpoint accuracy with our weapons and know when to use them. We even employed one of the infected slaves to carry Ashley for us, knowing we could save her when they went too far. So after an hour of trial and error, missing shots and nearly being mentally broken so much as to where I nearly scrapped this challenge altogether, we actually did it. Ashley had brought up the final two pieces of the bridge, which allowed our two protagonists to make their way into the next room. Once out in the castle courtyard, Ashley would start feeling weird and eventually fall into a fit of illness, losing the textures on her face and newly grown ears. As Leon went to comfort his dying cat girlfriend, she'd enact the claws and stab him in the hand. Ouch. Before she'd eventually run away, fearful that Leon might treat her to the same fate as basically everyone else he's looked at in Spain so far. With the pair separated and Leon needing to get Ashley out of here and save the infected Spaniards, safe in the knowledge they do in fact have Instagram reels and are in fact simply insane, Leon heads back into the castle. Upon entering one of the castle's many trophy rooms, Leon would be jumped by Ada, his totally dead ex-girlfriend who is now not dead and is in fact also doing things. Why? Who knows. What is she doing? Who cares? Separate Ways DLC? Trivago. They fight, Leon brings them to a stalemate and for some reason gives a lecture in survival to a woman who survived being dropped into like a completely infinite black abyss. I mean, sure Leon, whatever. Alas, more catapult fire rains down, but this time Leon escapes, not being hampered by the evil and mischievous Ashley Graham, who was now oh no, there she is. Her illness had calmed down and she'd seemingly returned to normal, ready to ruin our day even more, and by God did she do that. Now, in her defense, I would later find out that if I were to truly embody Batman and prepare, I could have saved myself another 45 minutes of pain and thrown a flashbang in this room to stop this guard dropping the bridge, making this entire section completely trivial. But I didn't do that. Sorry, Leon didn't do that, and I spent 45 minutes trying to navigate this section, and oh my god, this nearly broke me. After the pain of the catapults and the misery of relying on Ashley to actually do something useful, this was nearly the final straw, but we persevered, cut our way to victory, and would eventually find ourselves fighting some undead armoured dudes. How fun. Ashley would actually genuinely help here, managing to use her arms for something other than curling up in a ball as she's kidnapped. As the pair admire one of Salazar's more interesting pieces, Leon is trapped, leaving Ashley on her own, and here's how it went. Splendid. Ashley saves Leon, but is sadly taken away, being taken to another art room to admire the sights. Leon, growing tired of this place, heads out to try and rescue her for the 400th time today, but on his way he runs into two angry, blind, very spiky doors. And yes, they are the brothers of Gary, and no, before you ask, they don't have names. Anyway, Leon manages to take advantage of their inability to see him and uses a few well-placed knife strikes, a couple of flashbangs and some manipulation to get them to hit each other, and with that we find Ashley again. Ashley really isn't feeling very well, and with Salazar still in possession of her, he drops us down a hole, which actually reminds me of the last time someone was dropped down a hole in this series. Leon finds himself in the bowels of Castle Cobblepot, and eventually comes across the Verdugo. All jokes aside here, this guy's badass! His name in English is the Executioner, which is genuinely hype as hell. Anyway, aura farming aside, Leon engages the Verdugo in a good old-fashioned sword fight, using all of his skill to fight the beast off, but despite putting up one hell of a fight, in the interest of survival he retreats and finds none other than Luis in a bag? See, Luis had gone off to find his bag and, well, he found the bottom half of it, but unfortunately the top half had been taken by some big red and black guy who said something about the moon or the sun, or was it the stars? Maybe it was the stars. Who knows? The point is, Luis had his bag now and was ready to face whatever came his way, and with Leon by his side, the pair were nearly unstoppable. Not as unstoppable as their next foes, though. A pair of giant giants stood between them and his cat girlfriend. So, after doing some more slicing to the Achilles and dodging plenty of attacks, Leon manages to take down one of the giants. The next giant is armoured, because, well, of course he is. Luis runs away, seemingly abandoning Leon to his own devices, but he comes back with TNT, straps it to the giant, and with one grenade throw later, the giant was stunned and able to be dropped into what I can only describe as a giant furnace. Absolute cinema. With the two giants brought down to size, Leon and Luis begin to head up to the surface. As they made it though, Luis was tragically struck down. The man behind the slaughter, Jack Krauser. Jack trained Leon in the FUCC in Gotham City, and was here to prove that he was still better than him, even all these kills later. The two begin fighting, knife v knife, batsuit v beret, the fight is grueling, the parries are inevitable, whoa, another sick backflip, okay, that's awesome. Anyway, Leon manages to fight Jack off, and he rushes to Luis's side as Luis slowly, peacefully dies. See kids, this is why you stay away from cigarettes. After leaving Luis to his smoking-enhanced stab wound, Leon steals his house key, knowing that's where the cure for Ashley's disease found itself. To get there though, Leon would have to make it past Ozzy Salazar's personal guard, and well, he did, pretty easily actually it turns out, because he's learning pretty quickly and he makes it into the big man's room. Get it? Because he's actually quite short. Anyway, Leon gets there just in time to see Ashley be carted away by none other than Jack, but Salazar gets in between them and like a beautiful tiny butterfly, he morphs into something greater than before. But Leon, hating the idea of evolution, uses his definitely infinite knife to kill this giant beast.
I truly enjoyed your story performance.
Seeing Jackery Kraustein jet off to a remote island with Ashley in his boat, Leon begins giving chase but realises the boat he wants to take is completely useless without the keys, and like an angel from above his totally not dead ex appears, keys in hand, and the two enjoy a lovely, not awkward at all ride over to the island. When Ada grapples away, clearly stealing this tool from the belt of the Dark Knight himself, Leon makes his way onto land, and the next hard fight for the Bruce Wayne regen wouldn't happen until he comes across the Reagan doors. Oh god, an offshoot of the Door family which encompasses Gary and his two brothers. These were deadly foes and knife crime motherfucker! Deadly foes, yeah right. They were stuck in here with Leon S. goddamn Kennedy, and he made short work of them, slicing them open like ribeye steak and forcing them to confront their regenerative insult to the idea of death itself. Leon would need help to take these foes down though. See, one of them swallowed a wrench. I know, how silly. And Leon, knowing even he couldn't take down 4 of these guys, would call upon the help of his trusty rifle and scope. But don't worry, no shots were fired. We simply obtained this weapon for its thermal abilities, and because he is a lover boy, Leon attached Ashley to his scope, using her helpful pointer finger to locate the correct door to slice up, and lo and behold, he did just that. After slicing another 2 ray gun doors down like the cannon fodder they were, Leon would rescue Ashley from the cell Krauser had locked her in and he'd fall asleep, knowing that once his rest was up, the final stretch of getting away from this island was just around the corner. Upon waking from his beauty sleep and knowing Ashley's time on this earth was growing short, Leon and Ashley would haul themselves right into the path of the mastermind behind the plague that befell the love of Leon's life, Osmond Sadler. Obviously enticed by the idea of the cat ear removal surgery Sadler offered Ashley, she goes with him, leaving Leon behind and having to find her and convince her he was full of lies. I mean, look at him, how could anyone believe a word this man says? Leon would fight through Sadler's forces with relative ease and eventually find himself face to face, knife to knife with Krauser, but this time only one of them could walk away. After a long drawn out bout between the two, Krauser would put his physical Cronus Zen on, growing a giant cheat on his arm ready to strike us down in just a few brutal strikes. But after falling to him more times than I care to admit, we found a crack in his seemingly impenetrable armour, his feet. And after stabbing him in the foot enough times as Leon went down to being 1 hit away from death, we swung at the same time, but Leon was just quicker on the draw this time, and managed to just about squeeze in 1 more attack, taking Kraustein down for good. To finally reach Ashley and get her the cure, Leon would call in some air support and have to try and fail multiple times to get around this segment where his biggest enemy was, without a shadow of a doubt, the ever-increasing numbers game, which would see him have to weave in and out of various evildoers to finally reach his new lover. His final hurdle to reach her was the Reagan Door Generator facility, and once again, using his ever so helpful Ashley scope, he'd do this with relative ease, finally reuniting with Ashley before taking her to the cure that has eluded them for so long, but not without the help of Ada, who had now been kidnapped by the purple robe-wearing mastermind behind this whole thing. So, with Ashley cured and Ada's fate hanging in the balance, Leon knew what he had to do. He had to fight Sadler, head on, knife in hand, and heart on his sleeve. Leaving Ashley behind under the safe protection of Mer-chan, Leon spots Ada strung up like some kind of offering, and sets out to finally bring this nightmare to an end. Rescuing Ada by dropping her 50 feet onto her legs, Leon would be grabbed by a very angry Sadler, but knowing he didn't mean to drop her like a sack of puppies, Ada would swoop in and save Leon before the ex-lovers fought tooth and nail to unload as many already proven to be useless pistol shots into Sadler, but alas, it wouldn't be enough. So, with Sadler entering his final form, becoming whatever the hell this is, the fun could begin, and Leon would spend 40 minutes of his life slashing Sadler to death with his trusty knife, running away, flashbanging, healing, and again, stabbing. A lot. There was a lot of stabbing here. Anyway, ultimately, he would be brought to his final, biblically correct Sadler form. Leon would be out of options. He made a very solemn vow about firearms. But for Sadler, he'd make a once-in-a-lifetime exception, as he fired a rocket launcher provided by Ada at Osmond, killing him and forcing his stranglehold on the island to be relinquished. There's no time to waste though, and with Sadler now deadler, okay, I admit, not my best joke, and Ada ditching us for a new glasses-wearing boyfriend, we run back to Ashley, throw her on the back of a jet ski and make our grand escape out of Spain, bringing our time with Leon, Ashley, Ada, and all of the other characters we've met on this journey to an end.
Mission accomplished, right?
Mission accomplished.
Thank you for sticking around. If you made it this far, consider hitting the subscribe button. It does help and it lets me know you enjoy these videos. Hell, hit the like button, that'll help even more. This is like the opposite of what I usually do. If anyone's new here, I usually do videos on the Arkham games, but hey, sometimes you need to switch things up and I wanted to, so why not? I got to mix Resident Evil and Batman together, although very loosely, so that's fun. I plan on doing more strict, definitely more strict Resident Evil challenge videos. I have one for Requiem already in the works, which I'm super excited to make, so I'll be hoping to see you there. In case you couldn't tell, this wasn't a serious video. I mean, no video I make is particularly serious, but I do enjoy these very loose challenge runs. They're really fun to record and give me some freedom in the scripting part of it and allow me to really show off how bad and not funny I am. So if you enjoy this type of content, let me know, stick around, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.